Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello. Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics. Talk a little bit about the creators, the characters, and the stories and the art. And this time, well, we're going to take a little trip back to the 1950s. The comic doesn't go back that far, but the story does. Utilizing a little-known character most people probably have not heard of or seen very little of, but this is from Marvel Premiere number 36, featuring the 3D Man. This is from, what was it, 77? Yeah, 1977. We'll see. Yeah, because there was a period when 3D comics and 3D movies were kind of big in the 50s. They put the 3D Man in the 50s. So let's consult the big book of knowledge. Marvel Premiere 1977, the 3D Man. And he is a Marvel Comics character created by Roy Thomas, writer, and artist Jim Craig, who's the penciler on this story. And I am unfamiliar with Jim Craig, and I've probably seen some of his stuff elsewhere, but this is the only place that I am aware of in this story. And he first appeared in Marvel Premiere number 35 in 1977. He was inspired by the character Captain 3D, created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby for a 3D comic from Marvel, which was never published. And the 3D Man he's a composite of two brothers, the high schooler Hal Chandler and his test pilot brother Chuck Chandler. And the story takes place in 1958. It's after an accident. The 3D Man is born, and he has 3 times of everything. 3 times the ability of the pre-accident Chuck Chandler. He has 3 times the strength, 3 times the agility, the speed, even the volume of his voice is 3 times, can be 3 times louder if he needs it. And he starred in a 3-issue tryout run, but and he made a few later appearances, like in What If and Contest of Champions and the Hulk and Avengers Forever. And there are probably a few more. And while an interesting concept, he does not seem to have any staying power. I kind of liked it, but I agree with that assessment. Hey, it's my assessment. He's interesting as a novelty character for a couple of stories, but I don't think he would have been very good for a continuing storyline. He could have been okay for in a group or a backup character, but not as a series lead, ongoing series lead. Oh, you want to see something about the 3D Man? Journey into the 3rd dimension with the 3D Man. Yes, here he is. The 3D Man. This is 36. There were 3 issues to the storyline. I have 2 of them here. At one time I had at least all 3, but I haven't seen the first one in ages, and I may have gotten rid of them years ago, and I picked these up at different times from like a dollar box or something like that. And this is the concluding issue, and this is some great cover drawings by Gil Kane. Very dynamic, very dimensional. Gil Kane did a bunch of great covers in the 70s. Bunch of good stories too, but that's why he, as I've said before, he was known, referred to as the Michelangelo of comics. Okay, I'll get right into it. Here is Jim Craig did the pencils, and let's see. Oh, it lists him as illustrator, so he did the inks too, and he's a fine, clean artist. There's just something about his style that is a little bit off-putting. It's to me, I can't say what it is, but he is a fine artist, and I wouldn't besmirch his name at all anyway. But here, I don't know if it's part of his regular style or just because of the 3D aspect of the character. He has some interesting forced perspectives in some of these. But this is an interesting setup here on the splash panel, the splash page. Oh yeah, get the devil's music. I wanted to point this out to you. Yeah, it says, they used to say rock and roll was the devil's music. They were right. Marvel's sensational new 1950s superhero. And then looks, someone playing, it looks kind of like Elvis there. But yeah, rock and roll's the devil's music, because rock plays this part. And this is these three issues were one continuous storyline, an arc, and it left it open enough at the end for to come back, for the characters to come back on a continuing basis. But I noticed some extreme perspective on the figures here. Kind of starts with a kind of a worm's eye view with this person's foot, and then as it draws back, but then you look clear up and you can see the 3D man and the colors kind of off register there. But this is neat because you have the linear perspective of the building. He's almost like Spider-Man here, but he is standing on the top. He's just about to leap. But you have the perspective, which draw right down here, right down to the victim. And your eyes pass the 3D man. All the perspective leads down there. And of course, all these characters are converging on the victim. So it's a really good composition on this page. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, and then the 3D man leaps into action because this guy is apparently being mugged, and some really dynamic scenes here as he's fighting these muggers off. And the victim, some kind of astronomer, he's trying to go to safety while these guys are trying to gang up on the guy. And one of them takes off, gets the briefcase that the doctor was carrying, and gets on a motorcycle. And the 3D man chases after him, and he says it's a long shot, but playing into something that he knows about, and he calls him Skrull. He says, well, if you know who I really am, there's no use maintaining the pretense, and have a nice transition phase here as he transforms into his original Skrull visage. And then the reaction while the doctor is calling for the police and he's trying to chase the guy on the motorcycle. That no go. The cops catch the others, and they thank the 3D man for the help, and the cop mentions something about his dad having seen the invaders back in World War II, and then he takes off. He says, "Well, it's all I can do is the 3D man, but maybe there's something that Hal Chandler can do." And again, the colors are off register, but then this is a really neat effect. Again, the extreme perspective, and then he transforms. There's his Hal Chandler's body, and he zips back into him. And then again, the perspective again. Chandler wakes up and takes off. We'll give a bit of the origin, and he goes to see the doctor, the scientist, because he was going to go see him anyway. He has a couple of questions for him because he's a high school kid. So. And and it was he asked him, "Yes, my project for science class, and I'm sorry I don't have time for another matter." And so he asks him to explain a little bit, and then we have a flashback in the boy's mind back to his brother Chuck flying a fictitious version of the X-15, called XF-13 rocket plane. And while he's on that test, his plane is abducted by this alien flying saucer, and they take him aboard, and it's the Skrulls. Of course, at this time, this is in the 50s, and no one on Earth knows anything about Skrulls. And he manages to get loose. They tell him they're trying to interrogate him and stuff, and he lashes out. Oh, he learns that the Skrulls can change their form, and he damages the alien ship and starts some explosions, and he gets to his own aircraft and is able to get away, but he crash lands, and just as the engines had exploded, had some effect on him, and then his own they crashed together there, and as the engine explodes, has some effect on him, whoop, and imprints. The boy thinks he's dead, but he imprints the image, his last image of the test pilot, on the lenses of his glasses, one in red, one in green, playing on the little 3D glasses thing. So he thinks his brother's dead. Everyone thinks his brother's dead, but he later learns that. Well, anyway, they're back at home, and there's some rock and roll stuff going on. And he needs to check something out. And here we have the singer, what's his name, Rivers, something Rivers, Vince Rivers, yeah. And it's kind of Elvis. And this is a really good image here. Looks like it might have been based right on a still photograph from some concert back in the 50s. And he does a really good job here with the guy singing, and then the crowds, and then some trouble starts in the crowd, a little bit of violence, and Hal takes out the glasses, his 3D glasses, puts them on, and when he puts them on, it projects his brother. Well, causes Hal to become unconscious. His brother, the 3D man, becomes solid again, and he goes into action, trying to quell the uproar in the audience, and he's fighting, because it turns out that there's something in the music that's causing people to act violently. The kids, they act violent. Again, really nice action, very dynamic, and of course an emphasis on 3D, even here breaking the borders. There again, a leap, and the guy keeps singing. He doesn't know anything about that, or probably doesn't. And his manager's trying to get, or the host is trying to get him off the stage, but he keeps playing. So the 3D man figures out that the influence is in the music and it's the speakers. So he takes out the speakers, which stop. And as soon as that's done, oh good. So this is a really good page layout. See the tight close up on his face. And then as you see the sequence of him leaping and then breaking everything right out, very three-dimensional there as he does the flip and leap and crashes right and destroys the speakers. Pick him up. This is really good. This is a really good pose and panel there. Nice figure, and really smashes him. And it's just some really nice job. Again, an emphasis on the three-dimensionality of this. And I like the kind of detail in that speaker. And that quells the riot. So the singer tries to take off, and he thinks 3D man thinks he's a Skrull, but he doesn't change back or nothing, change into a Skrull or anything, and he's arrested by the cops. And the audience isn't thrilled with that, but that happened, and 3D man isn't. Well, it takes care of that for now, but there's more about the Skrulls. They're here, and he's got to. And this girl here was Chuck Chandler's fiance, and he has problems around her because, of course, she thinks he's dead, and she can't know that he is alive, but only in the form of the 3D man. And now we see that the guy's manager, or the rock promoter, I guess he was. He's talking to he was in his office, and he transforms back into a Skrull. So he's the one. He is the one. Said next issue, the most shocking, insidious 1950s supervillain of all. Dun dun dun. Yeah. And here's the second one. I'm not going to go much into the story, but you find out it starts back in that in the flashbacks, and the singer is put in jail, and he's winds up chasing the Skrull, and Skrull turns into somebody so he can be put in jail. Some really nice action stuff here. But I wanted to show you the most insidious supervillain of the 1950s was Richard Nixon, the vice president. Of course, it's not Nixon. It's the Skrull in the guise of Richard Nixon. And that's all I want to cover about that. But that was kind of fun. Just wanted to let you see that. Of course, this is from the 70s, and Watergate was still relatively fresh, and with the Nixon affair, so that's all I wanted to cover with that. So I hope you enjoyed that. You might be worth seeking out. It's some nice artwork, and an interesting story. I think Roy Thomas did a good job of on crafting this story and creating an interesting character. Like I said, it's interesting, but I don't think it's not. Well, it only had the 3 issue run as a title character, so it just didn't have what I would consider staying power, especially putting it back in the 50s. It doesn't mesh well with the rest of the Marvel universe of the 70s, but he was brought back. They even had another character being the 3D man. I don't know the circumstances behind that, but they had him in the present and later times. So that's all. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, thank you for joining me, and like, share, and subscribe. Share it with your other comic book friends or nostalgic people who like the 50s. Hey, maybe people who like rock and roll, because they said rock and roll was the devil's music, and they've done that many times. And we're going to have something about that again in the near future. And like, share, subscribe, and remember, comics are art.